had so much fun recording with Dr. Nicole Taylor that we ended up with nearly 2 hours of content. So, this bonus episode is longer than usual, but it is packed with gems. We go deeper into boundaries, how they evolve, how they get weaponized, and how we unlearn the pressure to perform. Get ready for some truth telling, some laughter, and a whole lot of wisdom from one of my absolute favorite people.
So I think boundaries are great for folks who are trying to find their footing in things, trying to find their voice, trying to determine what that voice is. But I also think there's a progression in life that you know what your voice is. You figured it out. You're comfortable
Mhm.
with it. But you tell yourself you need boundaries because you need other people to know how to treat you. Other people are living their life just like you're living yours. And if you're waiting for someone to value you above themselves, you might be waiting a long time. And if
Yeah,
you decided that your interaction or your relationship with this person is contingent upon, I told you I don't like these things and you continue to do them, then you have to have that Maya Angelou moment and says when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. That's who they
believe them.
are.
Hmm.
It has no reflection on you. That is who they are. And then you get to decide, do I want to continue? Do I not want to continue? So I think that boundary place has that point in time. I think it's probably more useful in a work life and work experience when you get comfortable with saying the complete sentence of no.
Hmm.
When someone asks you, "Hey, Nicole, you did a great job on XYZ, and I know that you had to put in an extra 40 hours for that. Can I count on you to do that again?" Not going to be able to do it right now because my circumstances have changed. And when I gave that to you the first time, yeah, my circumstances allowed that, but I don't have that resource at this time.
Yeah, just like I'm comfortable. This is where I'm at, and I have no problem sharing that with you.
I think it's an evolution. I think boundaries come in all shapes and sizes and understandings. I think it's definitely not a one fit all. I do think that that terminology is weaponized sometimes in a way that can be triggering for other folks. So I choose my thought process first, to examine myself first, because people are only going to treat you the way you let them. But that's also contingent upon how you show up.
Hmm. Yeah, this is really a great way to think about boundaries and to think about. I love the way you said it. What did I do that let you think it was okay to treat me that way?
You talk to me like that. Whoo, let's talk about
Right?
that.
Like, yeah.
Because clearly I've done something that made you think that that was okay.
Right.
Maybe it was that time when I should have said something and I didn't, and I thought I was giving you grace. Or maybe it was that time when I didn't have time to properly address it, and then by the time I got back around to it, it was no point because there's so much time had passed. So where am I in this? We really become this society of considering giving away our own power, that I don't have any power. And therapy is awesome, and they will tell you no matter what, you always have agency over you. You don't want to go? Don't go.
Don't go.
Why are you lamenting over it? Why are we going back and forth? What is the debate? I had this conversation with the customer service representative in banking. I said, this is how you presented yourself. This is my understanding. But this exchange furthers why I'm concerned about fraud in banking. And the rep's like, oh, no, 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 you took it the wrong way. See, there's where the misunderstanding is. The way I interpret can never be wrong because it's the way I interpret. What you want me to do is to interpret it the way you did. And that's great, but I'm not you. I don't have your filter. I don't have your lens. I'm not you. I don't do this every day. So for me as a consumer, I'm using my filter and my perspective. You don't get to dismiss that because it doesn't support or validate your point. So when we're talking about setting boundaries, I think we need to take care in saying who I am shouldn't invalidate who you are. And if the boundary that I want to set does that, then that's a more me issue than a them.
Hmm.
That's just my take on it.
Well, we're gonna keep talking about boundaries, but perhaps in a lighter way. So I'm gonna ask you a rapid round of questions. The first question is, what is it easy for you to say yes to?
Mm. It's easy for me to say yes to me. It's
Yeah.
very easy for me and probably too easy for me to say yes to me. I say yes, eat the cookie. I say yes, buy the dessert. I say yes, go to the movie. I say yes, even though there are a ton of things that I could be doing with my time that society tells me I'm supposed to be doing. I don't. I am perfectly okay with saying yes to me.
There's not much else to add to that. All right. What is it hard for you to say no to?
It's hard for me to say no to society's expectations. It's hard for me to say no to familial expectations. And it's hard for me to understand how to find my identity when I don't. Because this world is really, I mean, we're in, public health is built on labels and categories so that things can be counted, so that we can have data, so that we can make the informed decision. So it's difficult for me to step away from all of that categorization and labeling, and say no. I had a conversation with a good girlfriend recently. She's like, "Aren't you looking for someone?" Absolutely not. I'm not. No, and it's not for a set in my ways kind of reason. It's not for because society tells us, our taxes tell us that you do better if you're married.
Mm-hmm.
Everything around us tells us that it's better. The word of God says, "Iron sharpens iron." Ecclesiastes tells us two are better than one. Everything around in our world tells us that you should have a partner. But what do you do with that when you've been raised to be independent? You can take care of yourself. You're good with where you are in life. Trying to undo that thinking to welcome someone into your world who may or may not have been on this planet the same amount of time as you doing their own thing, that is more than a notion. So no, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not one of those folks that says Jesus himself is going to have to step down here and show me who that man is. I care less right now. I really could. It's not that I'm not interested in it. I'm just not prioritizing it right now. So saying no to those societal priorities, some are easier than others. Others are hard to say no to because we're going to be judged, and we know we're going to be judged. And for all the people who say we won't judge you, you're lying. You're going to judge.
Oh, yeah.
We see it in social media. If someone was to walk through my house right now, they would think she is so not together. But I am. This is my together. It works
Right.
for me. I know where everything is, and I'm okay with that. But society tells me I have to have order. Society tells me that I have to have some sort of structure. Society tells me that I have to play by these rules to be a citizen. But what if you said no to all of that?
What if you defined it for yourself?
And just take every day like it comes.
Yeah.
Am I less of a citizen on Monday than I am on Tuesday because I folded my laundry and put it away on Tuesday? But I could have done that on Monday. So it's challenging to say no to some of those societal expectations and priorities.
It is. And it's something that we really navigate in big ways and in small ways every day. Every day.
Every day, all the time.
All right. So when it comes to boundaries, how you define them, rest or joy or intentionality, what do you do really well?
Inspire other people to think better about the world.
And then the flip side of that is, where do you think you still struggle or could improve? You don't have to think about it as a struggle.
I work every day to better understand that my experience has not been somebody else's, but it doesn't make their experience less valuable. I find that because exposure levels are different, because economic status is different, some folk walk through this life thinking that everybody went to, everybody did. What do you mean you worked your entire way through all 3 degrees? All of them? What do you mean you started working in middle school? Really? Not everybody has that journey. So, what I work on every day is to make sure my perspectives are the things that I'm out here rallying for. When I say diversity and inclusion are valuable perspectives, am I practicing that? So, those are the things that I work through every day to make sure. And if I have a bias, I say it. Yes, there are times when I have a bias against a certain type of driver. I don't even have to look into the window. I know who did that. I know what that behavior is. And I have to say to myself, you know what? It takes all kinds to make God's world. And somebody somewhere is looking at me and going, yep, that's exactly who I thought that was going to be.
Yep.
So
Yep.
those are the things that I'm paying more attention to in this space is one, how I show up. And am I showing up with all of the things that I say are important to other people that they have? When I'm inspiring you to go for that job that you don't feel like you're qualified for, did I apply for the one that I didn't feel like I was qualified for? I did not. Am I walking the walk or am I just
Mhm.
talking the talk? So really showing up differently and being so that people can, when they do get to that judgment, well, she doesn't. Yes, I do. I do that. And I'm not doing it so that I have a response for you. I'm doing it because that's my character.
Yeah. I started out my career in child protective services and I had a lot of really interesting cases and parents who had a lot of different challenges and people would often ask me, how I could do it. How could I work with a parent who did X, Y, or Z, especially in cases where abuse was involved. And I would just say, maybe this is something that comes naturally to me because I recognize that they have a whole lifetime of experience that led them to this moment in time that led to these behaviors. And I don't judge that. That was their experience. My job is to help them navigate it now and how to take care of their children now. And me judging whatever it is that they've done is not going to help them be in a better place.
So love that. I couldn't agree more. And I've had this conversation with I think she was 30 something. So I forget what millennial label or bucket she falls into. But we were having an active conversation around a program, a leadership program for undergraduate level women, Black women. And I said, hey, there are some people that I want to take this to, but I think we need to think about where we've positioned it. And so I asked her, I said, so what did you think about the civil rights movement? She said the civil rights movement was necessary because telling Black people to drink out of a different faucet was wrong. I said it was wrong to you. But somewhere that made perfect sense to someone. Those morals and values and principles that you hold so clearly to, you don't get to tell somebody else that theirs are wrong. You just don't get to do that and then expect them to take yours on. But that's the world that we live in. That's where our society has become with a cancel culture. If you don't agree with, and not agree with in lip service, but take up whatever it is I'm espousing is the right way. It goes back to what I said. Criticism says there's a right or a wrong. Then you're wrong. Well, no, that in my mind, and I could be a little left of right. When we talk about the democratic process, the bowl has everybody, even the opinions, the ideas, and the things that you may not agree with, the things that challenge your sense of truth and honesty and virtue. It does not make them invalid because it does. There are all kind of ways to live this life.
And I think that is a perfect lesson for this moment that we're in with all the changes that are happening, especially in the public health space, but at the federal government. I have this same conversation a lot where people are saying, I don't understand how you could support even just, firing all these federal workers. And I said, you don't have to understand it, but there are people out there who think that government is inefficient and that this is necessary. And if you can't understand that that is their perspective, we are never going to have conversations where we can find middle ground. Like we're never going to have conversations where we can address the problem and find a way moving forward that benefits everyone. You have to understand that there are people who think that what is happening right now is perfectly fine.
Acceptable. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense. And they're benefiting from it. And you
they're
can say
benefiting
all
from
day
it.
long is the same people who are benefiting. Okay, well, like I said, I have to start with me. I can't carry the weight anymore or nurse the wound that says I don't have because you have. That very well may be the case, but maybe it's more so that I don't have that because that's what I was meant for. How are we defining success? I was a hiring manager and have been a hiring manager in many roles in and outside of Medicaid programs. And I remember telling people, you get that question, what's the one thing that you like about your job? Why do you keep coming back? I keep coming back to this because every day I decide what my victory is going to be. What do you mean? Some days victory is just getting to this office and I ain't cussing anybody out on the highway. That was a victory. It's going to be a great day. Or I got here and I had my cup of coffee and I didn't spill it all over myself in the elevator. Awesome day. Or I get to work and that thing that I said I was going to do before work, I actually did it and made it to work on time. I define the success and victory in my day based on me. But what if you've got 15 projects that you've got to do and you've got to get them all done and they'll get done. I'm not disregarding what my requirements are, what's being asked of me to perform. But what you're implying is that completing those things is my success. And what I'm asserting is that it is not.
My best looks different every day.
Every day, sometimes twice in the same day. Sometimes I have to, okay, we're just gonna start the day right now at 2 o'clock because before 2 o'clock didn't count, and we're gonna reset it here. And I often giggle at employers who give those employee pulse surveys. Are you happy at your job? I always ask is where's the I need a not applicable box because
Mhm.
I don't come to work to be happy. Happy is fleeting. It's temporary. It's based on things around me. I'm not looking to be happy in a role. I do have joy and I'm looking to have joy in the things that I do. But again, that's on me, not the job.
Yeah.
So whether I'm content, discontent, all of that's on Nicole. I don't expect my employer to be responsible. And I know that this is going to shake the universe. They're not responsible for my happiness. They're not. I don't step into a job expecting my workday to be fun, expecting it to be a happy place. That's a lot of pressure to put on strangers, complete strangers. And I'm going to show up, okay, guys, yes, I'm not having fun.
Okay, I agree. Like I don't go to work expecting to have fun. I do think though employers have a responsibility to create an environment where you can show up however you want to show up. In a way that doesn't infringe on other people's experience, right? So if you show up and you're like, I'm here because I need a paycheck and I don't care about anything else that is happening in this environment, great. And there are people who show up and they want to be happy and they want to, do potlucks and go to lunch with their coworkers, whatever. But I do think like I don't expect that of my coworkers. My experience of the day, as you were saying, is on myself. But I think employers have to create an environment that lets us all be our best self, whatever that looks like.
And in doing so, I think there needs to be an acceptance that not everybody goes to work to find a family.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody goes to work to have a familial connection. Not everybody comes to this work. And this is where I think I'm probably the unpopular voice in the room when I start to talk about working in your purpose. Working in your purpose doesn't mean that you're happy. There's a fulfillment, there's a rewarding piece to it, there's joy that you can draw from it, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be happy. And I go back to my parents. My parents never talked about doing something that makes you happy. I don't ever remember them asking me, are you happy? One, because my opinion didn't count. But two, it just wasn't something that we talked about. If I was to get on my family chat line and ask all of my cousins, your people talk to you about being happy? I'd probably get laughing emojis. Who family, Nicole? What family are you talking about? That's not us. But yet we step into these workplaces, and when we aren't striving for that, we get labeled. So when we're talking about a workplace that's created an environment where everyone can exist and be their best selves, then it should also include those. I'm not going to happy hour with you.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go to happy hour with you if we weren't working here. I'm not going to happy hour with you now to stand around and hope I listen to get the tidbits. No, because when this story is retold, I don't want my name in it. So
Right.
no, I'm not. Mm, I don't want to have to okay, great birthday. I sent you the hey, happy birthday. Hope it's your
Yeah.
best. We're doing cake and ice cream. Wonderful. Enjoy.
Have a good
Or,
time.
we're gonna take the team out. We're all gonna go eat here. Fantastic. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah,
So we don't live in that space that says you really get to bring your true self to work.
that's true. Yeah. And we have to hold that like right. I've been the same way. Like, no, I'm gonna go home. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good time. I'm not going to celebrate your office birthday party. I'm not gonna do the baby shower, for some people, and then you have choices, right? So then maybe there are people I want to do that for, but we have to just normalize that people have that.
And it's not something that needs to become a thing in water cooler gossip. It doesn't mean that, when other people come on board, yes, Nicole, she doesn't do anything with us.
Right.
Because somebody else has decided, like I said, those societal priorities, somebody else has decided that the priority here is some sort of congenial thing. Well, I can't be congenial with my colleagues when I'm hearing leadership say certain things, or there's certain ththings missing from the infrastructure. Laughing and guffawing with y'all. Some of y'all might not be here tomorrow. Heck, some of y'all might not make it to the end of the workday. So, it really depends on again, how are you showing up and how are you holding yourself accountable? There are some workspaces that will do a great job of making everyone feel welcome. And then there are some that miss the point. If you want somebody to consider that they're happy in a workplace, then have you really created a space where happiness can be enjoyed by everyone? There is no workplace where all the employees are going to be, oh, I'm so happy to work here, and be telling the truth. We all have different motivations for why we accepted an offer or why we're in that workplace at that time. What I'm suggesting is, and I've said this before, and people are like, what does that mean? We become so inclusive that we become exclusive. We become so inclusive about things that we are excluding folks. We want to make sure that everybody has all of this and that there's a sense of belonging. All right. Well, if I've grown up with an unstable family, I've been homeless, I've learned how to exist without belonging. So being in these environments and in these meetings where we want to talk about whether I belong or not, and we're doing icebreakers, what's something somebody doesn't know about you? Well, what if that one thing that somebody doesn't know about you, there's a reason why?
Right.
And it's just a very delicate, very nuanced thing. That's really where I'm at when we talk about happiness in the workplace. My perspective may be the unpopular perspective, but my perspective is I'm taking people as is. I don't know what it took for you to get here. I don't know what you're facing when you go home. I have no desire to force this wonderland concept on you while you're here.
Yeah.
Let's just do our best and get through the day.
Right. And then I'll see you tomorrow.
We'll try again tomorrow.
That's it for this bonus episode. If something Nicole said made you pause or nod your head, send it to a friend. For me, it was, if you're waiting on someone to value you above themselves, you might be waiting for a long time. That is just one of many gems. Don't forget, your boundaries are yours to define. Check out the full episode at workisthird.com, and I'll see you next time. Until then, put yourself first.